I moved from Denmark over 6 months ago with my family. We now live in the south of France. And after living in a country for over 8 years, you start to realise that there are many things that you begin to miss. So here are some of the things that I miss the most about Denmark. To be honest, I'm filming this on the perfect day because the weather is very Danish-like. Over Christmas there was one thing that I realised I missed quite a lot, and that's æbelskriver. Now, I don't really know how to describe æbelskriver perfectly. They are like a small round snack made of like dough, basically. And it's typically had during Christmas, so this is the period of the year that you would eat these. And you would have them with jam and with sugar, icing sugar. Now, you can make them yourself, but we never did. We took the lazy version and bought them in the supermarket, frozen. And you would put these in the oven for 10 or 20 minutes to simply warm them up. And then when they were warm, you would take them out with your jam and icing sugar, and they were very, very good. And you would eat them. During Christmas, we used to have a tradition that on the day we put up the tree, you know, like 3 weeks or so before Christmas, the first week of December, or the first weekend in December, we would, once the tree was up and all the lights and everything, we would relax in the evening, watch a movie, and we'd make some æbelskriver and eat them. And often, for myself, some glug as well. Glug is a bit like glühwein or mulled wine, just a very, very sweet, almost too sweet wine that you would have during Christmas time. I really miss them. The second thing I really miss, and sticking to the theme of food, and I never thought I'd be missing any food from Denmark, because in general, and this is not a criticism, but in general I would say the food is quite bland. But I really miss, and this is probably one of the things that I miss the most, is leverpostej. And leverpostej is very popular in Denmark, and you would typically have it with a roll or a rundstykke, and you can get this every morning from the bakeries. And what we would typically do on a Saturday or maybe a Sunday is I would get up early as 6 o'clock, go round to the bakery and get fem rundstykker and leverpostej, which is 5 of these rolls with leverpostej. And it's essentially like liver patty, but warm. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's incredibly good. And often they would serve it, you can get leverpostej on its own, which is typically what we would do, or what you would get from the bakery, but you can also get it with bacon, like little bits of bacon inside, or mushroom. Like in my office, we had a canteen, and in the morning, no, not in the morning, in the afternoon, sometimes when we were lucky, you would get leverpostej, nice and warm, with mushrooms or bacon. Oh, it's so good. So good. That's one of the things I miss the most, and I want some. I want some right now. And keeping on the food theme again, flæskesteg. Flæskesteg, one of, it's just pork, but you cook it in a specific way so that the top, you know, the fat becomes very, very crispy. And to be honest, it's actually very difficult to do. My wife is good at doing it. After all these years of trying, getting it perfect. I'm not going to describe how you do it because, quite frankly, if you follow my instruction, you'll probably get it wrong. But you roast the pork in the oven for however many hours, and then right at the end, you would turn the heat up, I think, or maybe with the grill, quite high to get the fat on the top nice and crispy, and it would typically be it was quite salty. You know, you would put quite a bit of salt on this on the fat at the top, and we used to put like bay leaves in it, and it's slit. You know, you cut slits in it all the way down, so then afterwards, once it's ready, you slice it into slices. If cooked right, one of the best things that you could eat in Denmark. But again, very, very popular. You got it all the time. But I think during the Christmas period, it was also very popular. Something that you would have maybe on Christmas Day as well. Yes, really good. Going off the theme of food, I would say one of the things that I miss about Denmark, and it's one of the best things about living in that region, is the work-life balance. Now I live in France, and to be honest, the work-life balance is very, very good, but it's similar to what I would have experienced when I was in the UK. And typically, we get up a bit later here because things kick off at 9 a.m. A lot of people will turn up to work, to the office between 8 and 9. We drop the kids off at school around 8:30. 8:40, 8:45 is when they begin. But in Denmark, everything was a bit earlier. So we would take the kids in Denmark 7:50 to school. My wife would take them to school, so I'd cycle to work and I'd start in the office at 7:20, which meant that you were leaving the office around about 3:30, 4 p.m, which is great, right? Because then the rest of your day feels really long. You get home and you're not just immediately having your dinner. You have lots of time, a couple of hours to get things done, play with the kids, whatever it is. But it just makes the evening feel a lot longer. Here it's back to what I typically did when I was in the UK. So you're coming home at 5, maybe a bit later, you have your dinner, and then you don't have much time, before you're getting the kids ready for bed and all the rest. So the work-life balance is very good in Denmark. It's probably one of the best in the world. Now, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but one of the most surprising things that has happened recently is the paternity leave that you get. So I don't think much has changed for the mother in Denmark, but for the father, you do get quite a bit more paternity leave. And I did make another video about that last year. But I had essentially 24 weeks paid leave, fully paid leave from my company when my third son was born, which was great. So before we moved here to France, I took like 2.5 months off just to get everything prepared and do whatever I want to do. You could argue, of course, it's not the best for your career. Maybe it sets you back a little bit, depending on what industry you work in. Is it that great for the company? I don't know. They've got to pay you, but they're getting nothing for it. But yeah, I mean, if you can take it, take it. Now, the third thing I really miss, and this is emphasised quite a lot, especially here in France, is the convenience of getting things done. Like in Denmark, there's very little bureaucracy, right? And that's partly because you have a MIT ID and everything is connected to it. So if you need to sign up for new insurance or a new bank account, or you want to buy a car or you want to sell a car, it's just so quick. There's no paperwork, there's no bureaucracy. You sign up, you use your MIT ID and it's all done. And a lot of it's done automatically behind the scenes, so you don't really need to. There's just no stress, for all that kind of stuff. Whereas when we took out the lease for our new Renault Quatre here in France, I think I signed my name, I don't know, 10, maybe 12 times, and then it was wrong, so we had to redo it, and it was like 20 times you were signing your name. To be frank, I don't mind that. It doesn't bother me too much, but you can see how much quicker things get done in a country like Denmark, where a lot of that side of things, the bureaucracy is eliminated. But it does surprise me that a lot of countries are still behind on that side of things. Arguably, it gives you a little bit more privacy, but not everything is centralised on some central database. You live in Europe, countries that are all developed, and they do things quite differently in many aspects. Now, the final thing that I miss the most, after living in Denmark for 8 years and having done this for, I would say, the last 5 years, and spent quite a bit of money on it as well, is the fireworks. Now, I had never experienced it before. I moved to Denmark and I didn't actually know it was a thing, because growing up in the UK, at New Year's time, I grew up in a village, we would typically go into the local town or the nearby town, and the council would hold a fireworks display, and it was great fun. It was like professional fireworks, so of course it was bigger and coordinating music, and okay, we all know what fireworks displays are. But that's what I was used to. Otherwise, you would stay at home. You might hear the odd firework, that somebody's bought, but that's about it. Not much more than that. Sparklers, maybe, for example. The first year that we moved to Denmark, quite frankly, I was a little bit annoyed that evening, actually, because our daughter, we only had one child at the time. She was only 1 year old. and we were trying to put her to sleep. Because what happens in Denmark is that from around, I would say, 3, 4 p.m. on New Year's Eve, you start to hear the odd firework. And then 5, 6 p.m. you might get some more. It's still daylight at this point. It then goes a little bit quiet for maybe an hour because everybody's having their dinner, right? And then by about, I would say, 7 p.m. onwards, it's just an increasing number of bangs until it's just a constant thing. And you get to, this was certainly the truth in Esbjerg. I'm not sure if it's the same across all of Denmark, but I would assume so. But yeah, from 8 p.m. onwards, it's just constant. You're constantly hearing fireworks, they just don't stop. And of course, when you get to 12 o'clock, it's like a war zone. And on that first evening, I was in Denmark with my daughter. Of course, you can't sleep, right? And it can be scary for the kids. I think a lot of people get hacked off because it's difficult for their animals or dogs. But it is at the same time a lot of fun if you take part in it, you know. If you don't like it, then yeah, it's a bit difficult. But that was me the first year. I think it was around COVID time, yeah, 2020 or so, or 2019. No, maybe it was a year before COVID, I can't remember. But I started to buy fireworks. And I think the first year I bought maybe 4,000 krona worth of fireworks. I have a photo, I only show it up here on the side. And yeah, I mean, I took part, right? Because everybody will buy their own fireworks, and you can see this because just before Christmas, all the supermarkets, all of them, will start to sell fireworks, and you'll get pop-up tents everywhere as well, all across the town, selling fireworks. And you know, some of these are big things. They're not just like, you know, little fireworks. You know, some of them are pretty impressive, and a lot of fountains as well. The fountains are great, and the Roman candles, sparklers, of course, and all these little ones that the kids can play with, and they throw on the ground, and they pop, and they bang, and it's just really good fun. And so, yeah, every year after that, I was buying, I would say, around about 4,000 krona worth of fireworks. I did cut back a bit in the last few years. I thought maybe I'm going a bit too far. But you know, everybody would come out on the street. It was quite nice. You know, everybody would come out at 12 o'clock, and you would see all your neighbours setting off their fireworks and put them out in the middle of the road. You know, bang, 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 until about 12:30. Then it starts to get a bit quieter, but they're still going off until 1:30. And in the morning, everybody would be up out by lunchtime, I would say, when they've finally woken up, sweeping up all the debris from the fireworks. And then even by summer, you're still finding the ends of fireworks all over your garden, and the sticks from the rockets on your roof and in your gutters, and it's just really good fun. Maybe a little bit over the top, but then at the same time, they didn't have the same thing that we would have had in the UK, where you get a public display that's organised professionally. They don't have that in these, you know, smaller towns. So they go all out and they do it themselves. This year we were living here in the south of France, and we stayed up late. We didn't have guests around like we would have had, you know, in Denmark. Typically we had guests around, and it was really good fun. Champagne and drinks and all the rest of it. Here we just did it ourselves this year, and I couldn't believe it, because we came out at 12. I came out with my daughter and my son at 12 a.m. and we stood and we listened, and there wasn't a single bang, not a single one. Didn't hear anything, nothing, zero. So I don't know if here in France it's popular or not. Obviously it's not very popular to buy them yourselves. I don't know if there's regulations around it. I haven't actually researched it. I didn't look into it this year because I wasn't considering buying any. But it could be that maybe they're not sold commonly. I'm not sure. If you know, let me know down below in the comments. But that is certainly the biggest thing I miss, is the fireworks. And if I can, maybe this year I'll get some, if it's possible. But there you go, 4 of the things that I miss most about Denmark. The food, specifically leverpostej, æbleskriver and flæskesteg. The work-life balance, the convenience of everything, and most importantly, the thing I miss the most is my fireworks.